after the hurly-burly, the jet boat ride, you know, this is more me. This is the way to see a river. A raft, just floating along with the current, not a care in the world. The peace, the tranquility of it. In case you didn't notice, we lost our cameraman, Chris Stanbury, in the middle of that rapid. Here's the action replay. And here he goes, the camera up, the legs over backwards and gracefully into the white water. And this is what he saw, and kept filming too. Now this is total dedication. So there we have it, a river of many moods, sometimes fickle, sometimes playful, sometimes savage, but never a river to be trifled with. What are you doing? Well, get out of here! Can't you see I'm trying to make a serious documentary? That is quite ridiculous. You would never catch me doing that. That is amazing. That's bloody amazing. What did it look like? You record. I'm making a serious documentary here about the Clutha River. What am I doing lying on my back in a raft underneath a bridge? This is the question I ask myself. Oh well, back in my van. I mean, I couldn't do the whole Kawara River in a raft and a jet boat, could I? I've got to have somewhere to make the crew there. Cappuccino and croissant, don't I? Yeah. This sort of moonscape we're walking through at the moment is all that remains of the old main street of the town of Cromwell. And Noel Kennedy here remembers the old Cromwell the way it was before this happened to it.
Round about here, I would think somewhere down there was in the very early days an establishment known as Mrs. Robertson's boarding house. And
boarding house, is it?
A boarding house of slightly dubious reputation.
Oh, not by chance a boarding house for young ladies or something?
More like elderly gentlemen. And I suppose its chief claim to fame is the fact that one of its clients had occasion to go out of the establishment to visit the outhouse one night and took the wrong turning and fell down the bank, which I suppose would be all of 80 feet, and wasn't found for some time later. And of course it's all duly reported in one of our early newspapers.
But what a way to go, though. That's style.
Had a character all of its own. In some ways it was, I was nearly going to say Wild West, but
I just remember it as being a very sleepy sort of place, you know, very central Otago, a sunny afternoon. The main problem with New Cromwell seems to be one of image. Old Cromwell has its own image, as we've seen. It was the archetypal central Otago town. New Cromwell, repositioned up here on these bare plains as it is a bit like it's been plonked down sort of like a film set in a way. Mind you, the image makers have had a go at it too, often with fruitful results. Ah! Back! But, I'm sorry, I got a bit of a fright, though. Those are very big fruit, aren't they? If you find modern Cromwell a little lacking in atmosphere after the old town, the landscape below Cromwell is truly depressing. We used to stop at the orchards along here to buy bags of apricots and juicy, messy peaches from the honesty boxes. They're long gone. The twisting gorge road that so impressed me as a child is now a wide highway. They're still digging here to stabilise the last of the ancient landslips along the side of the gorge. With any luck, this will be the final step before they create Lake Dunstan, behind the giant dam at Clyde. Paul, is it?
That's right.
Well, pleased to meet you. This is Paul Wilson. He's the commissioning engineer for the Clyde project. See, I have gone to the top. This is investigative journalism. Now, Paul, I've got two major problems here. The first one is I was talking to a guy up the road who reckons that this will never be safe, they'll never fill it, and if they do fill it, A, it's built on this fault line, so it's going to break in half, and B, that all these faces are going to fall off, crash into the lake, and a huge tidal wave will go up and wipe out Cromwell. Another huge tidal wave will go down and wipe out everything down that way. Now, is that right?
No, not at all, John. If you come back in 12 months' time, I'm sure that we'll have 35 metres of water above where we're standing.
How can I be sure?
Well, we're not here doing all this work in the gorge for nothing.
Well, my other problem, how's my duck going to get past here?
When do you expect your duck?
A few minutes if it's on schedule, I don't know.
Well, that shouldn't be a problem because he's going to end up going through the diversion and on his way down to Roxburgh.
The diversion. Good thinking. Look, before we go, can we have a look at the inside of the powerhouse?
No problem at all, John.
So these are what, the turbines, is it?
No, that's the top of the generator, and below that you've got the turbine.
All right.
Okay.
Of course, I believed everything he said about the safety of the new dam. But if it does go, the first town to be swept away will be Clyde, just a kilometre down the road. And just down the road from Clyde, the Clutha takes on a whole new mood, a much gentler mood, because here at Alexandra, it's flowing into the headwaters of what's essentially a lake, the lake made up by the Roxburgh Dam, which is 30 kilometres down that way. It's very rugged country, very barren, inhospitable sort of country, but strangely enough, this is the start of what's the Cluthas and the Central Otago's fruit-growing region, which is so famous. And incidentally, I've just found out, coming up here, why, in Cromwell, they built those gigantic fruit. They just couldn't handle the competition. You know, there's an old story about this clock. You see, the gold miners didn't have any wristwatches, and they got really sick and tired, and their wives were getting on their backs about being late all the time and not knowing when they were running into overtime. So they pitched in just a few dollars each, and they built this so they could look up from their panning and digging and always know what the time was and know if they'd run into overtime. It's true. It's the sort of town where you've really got no excuse for being late.